I'm going to go through these procedures. This should not take very long for you. But I would like it if you could, this is the kind of spreadsheet I'm going to have you create. Just a reminder, if you choose to do some of these formats we've got here, I'm going to select these for just a minute and just remind you, if you come up here to these numbers here for dollar size, if you come up here to currency, just remember that I can remove the decimals by selecting the currency up here. Then when it becomes currency, then I come down here and say decrease the decimal. I click it for every time that I want to remove a zero. Now, something else I want to remind you of is if you click in here, and if you would like to do this business with the formatting as a table, click somewhere in the array or table area, go to format as a table, and then just choose whatever format we want. For example, if we do medium style right here, you just click on it, and then you'd say yes, you keep the checkbox there, and you click OK. But just as a reminder, you can come in here once you go to the table design, and you can say give us the total row, and then you can come in here and just make it do a total there. There's lots of things you can do with that. The other thing though is when you do that, if you remove it, if you simply say I'm going to convert it to a, say yeah, I'm going to do that, it will often leave these other things sitting here. So I'm going to undo that for now and just remove all that stuff there. But that's something you can do. Let's try another thing. Let's click on total here, or I mean, excuse me, A20, type the word total, hit the right arrow key, and we can just do the auto sum here. And when you do it, you've got your total sitting there. And then what I can do is I can select these cells, and I can do a different type of border. I can come up here, and I can do, as you can see there, there is a top and double border at the bottom. So it's a top border and a double border at the bottom if you're ever asked to do that on an exam. And again, we can make all of these, select here, do a select all, make them all bold if you want. But what I'm asking you to do for this next assignment is to make a worksheet looking very similar to that. So these are just little reminders I'm giving you. What we're going to do now is we're going to do what they call data validation. For example, suppose I want these things to only be certain, it's got to be one or the other. So ways I can do that, I can select it, then I can come up here to data, and then over here, way over to the right here, it says data validation. And you click data validation. And the default is, of course, to let any value in there, but I can say, no, I only want it to be what is on this list. So I can click list, and then I can click down in here, and I can have it referred to a list. Now I'm going to click on this right here. I'm going to click and drag over to Q1 and Q2, and then click OK. Now, once I do that, then when I go over to Q1 and Q2, I'm going to click right here and type in there M and F, you see. So now what's happened here is if I type anything other than what's in that list, it won't work. So if I click on it, you'll notice M and F are now here. Now if I try to type in the cell here a J, for example, or type in H, I'm going to say, wait a minute, you can't do that. It's not on the list, you see. So this way it makes your data in your spreadsheets more likely to be accurate. So the way to do it is it creates, when you do that, it creates a drop-down list. Another thing you can do is with dates. So for example, let's select the dates and do the same thing. Let's go to the data validation here. And we're going to say, well, it has to be a legitimate date. It cannot just be any date. Now, what you can also do is say it's got to be a date that's reasonable. In other words, if this is the hire date of an employee, obviously the hire date could not have happened 35 years ago if you've only been in business for 5. So you say, well, look, it has to be sometime after January 1st of the year 2000 if you've been in business, let's say, for 15 years. Then you can put an end date there of January 1st, let's say 2020. That way people don't get some crazy stuff in there. Sometimes people say, well, the start date was in January 1st of 2090. We don't want that to happen. This will just keep that from happening. Another thing I want you to do is to click input message. You see, this is basically a way of telling your people. It's just a little drop down that says be careful. So dates can only, well, the title here can just be careful. Just type the word be careful with an exclamation point. And you'll see this come through. In the input mission, I can put down here and say dates can only be from January of 2000 into 2000, and whatever, 2020 or whatever. That way they know that, if they get an error, they know what they're talking about. Then you can actually put an error alert over here. You can put a thing over here that says warning or information. I can put warning. I could put information. I can just put the stop there, and I can put the title in here. I can say, you can put any title in it you want. Something, make it polite. Don't put anything in there like bonehead. Don't do anything like that. But type in something like, you made a mistake. You know what I'm saying? Something like that. Then down the error message can be what you did up here. In fact, you can go back to your error message here, and you can select it, and Control-C, then go over to error alert, and then go in here and paste, Control-V as in Victor, and click OK. So now what happens is the minute you click on that cell, that little title, be careful, date's going to only be, you see what I'm saying? If I type in there, let's say January 1 of 1950, it's going to give me that error message. You can only be, date's going to be from January. See, it says you made a mistake is up here in the top. Retry. So that's the way we validate. I'm going to click cancel there. That's how we validate cells, and that is the first thing or that's actually something I'm having you do later on in the assignment. If not on the assignment, it'll definitely be on the exam. So please, no, that is actually the second thing. After you create the assignment, create the spreadsheet, I'm going to have you do that. So the next thing I'm going to do is to name the sheet. We're going to name it here. Double click the sheet tab. We're going to name it sales for the pivot table. I'm going to show you how to do a pivot table. Pivot table does three-dimensional data here. So here's how we might, you'll get a flavor for it. If you look at your work required for your homework, you'll see that it's up at the top there. You'll get an idea what it's supposed to look like. But let's suppose I want to break this down by, instead of just getting totals by, let's say, the states and the inside-outside sales, maybe I want to get sales totals both ways. So here's how I do it. Step 1, select somewhere inside the table or array area. And then step 2, you're going to, believe it or not, you're going to go to Insert, and you're going to go to Pivot Table. Okay, a lot of people tend to want to go to Data there, but you don't. So you're going to say, no, I want this data table. It'll confirm the range we're talking about and say, yeah, that's the one I want. So you simply click OK, and you get this little thing over here on the right. Now, what we want to do is we would like to choose, in this particular case, we would like to have, okay, so let's repeat that. You go to Insert, and you go to Pivot Table, and we click OK. You confirm it, just to kind of reiterate. Notice over here on the right, it'll give you the column headings we have. We have last name, gender, hire date, state, and so on. I'm going to ask you, please, to type in there, just click on the checkbox with the state and the sales area, and then the year-to-date sales, and watch what happens here. You'll notice that down here in the values, it automatically assumes that that's what you want to total is year-to-date sales. Now, you may want to say, no, I want that to be another field or another column. But right now, that wouldn't make any sense because we only have one column here with numbers in it. So we leave that the way it is. What I'm going to ask you to do now is to click and drag the sales area up here to columns. And you'll notice that this thing takes a major turn here. So now you'll notice that the rows here are showing us the states, and then the inside-outside sales are here. But it's also kind of cool here because it gives you a grand total on the right, and it will give you the it does, like I say, three-dimensional adding up. It takes the states and the inside and puts them all together. So it's just a different way of breaking stuff down. They can also do things like this in Access, Microsoft Access. Now, eventually I could click on the D here, you'll notice. Sorry, I was going to, yeah, anyway. Click somewhere in here, we can get rid of some of this stuff. But the point I'm getting at here is if we want to switch these around, I can click sales area down into here, into rows, and I can click the state up in here. But I can shrink column H here, that's what I meant to do, but anyway. Then you can select all these in here and change them to dollars, whatever you want to do here. So that's what I'm asking you to do for this assignment, and then you'll probably want to widen the columns. Just select the columns and do a double click here. Again, you got to shrink the H here. Otherwise, that's kind of what I'm looking for your homework on that part as far as the pivot table. Notice it sends it to a new sheet. Um, Now you go back here to the sales for pivot table. If you change the numbers, then when you go back to sheet 10 where it sent that, if I click in here, you notice I can do a refresh, and I click in here in the pivot table design and all that, and I can do refresh and clear. Lots of things you can do up in here. I'm not going to go into a lot of the details, but you can do all the, just you can really manipulate this different things you want to do here. So it's like here's the refresh, for example. That's all you need to do for that. You can kind of mess around with that if you want. Anyway, the next thing I'm going to ask you to do is to create what we call a macro. I'm going to ask you to come back to your sales here. Let's suppose we wanted to print just gotta think here. We might want to just put the names and all of that and print it. But then we might just want to print just the hire dates. In other words, maybe all we want is just that. The problem is, you see, with Microsoft, you have to kind of play around here a little bit. What happens is, if you want to print one than the other, you don't want to have to go through there and select all of that. See, normally when you print, you could go in there and say, you could select it. Let's just try it once. We could select that and then come in here to the page layout, and then we would click in here where it says print area. We could say set the print area, and we would print. The problem is, then if I want to do the other part, if I want to select the names and then press and hold the control key and then do the year-to-date sales, you see, and do that, then I want to come back here and say set the print area again. I don't want to have to do that over and over. So now watch, when I go over here to file and print, you see it's going to give me there's page 1 and there's page 2 with the sales here. What I'm saying is that can be kind of awkward if you're trying to do one than the other. What you can do is set up a macro that'll do them both. Let me just show you here. Actually, I would not recommend you do what I just did there. I would have you, what I should have done though was have you do that and then the, shrink the columns and all that. My point is though, we're going to make a macro that'll do it for you. So rather than you having to do that each time, let's do a macro. The macro works like this. Make sure, first of all, you have the developer tab in your actual workbook. Now, if you do, your workbook also has to be saved in a way that will let you have security. In other words, you have to go a file and a save as, and when you do browse and you go to find a place to save it, you have to, if this thing ever comes up here, so hopefully it will, there we go. You can click in here. You have to save it as an XLM, you see, right here, because that will make it so that the macros will work. If you don't, Microsoft is going to assume that your macros that we're going to create here in a few minutes, they're going to assume that they're a virus and they will block them. So you got to save your assignment there as such. So when you do it on the test or the homework, make sure you do that. Now here is how you do a macro. Basically all it does is you record while you do stuff. So for example, we're going to have it print one just like that. Then we're going to have it print another one just like that. It's going to set the print area for both. This is going to be real simple. You can do a lot of stuff with it. I can have it apply a bold, italic, underline, and a red. I can do all kinds of things. Anything you do between the starting and the stopping of recording, you can do. Then you can put a button out there that will run it. So let's try it here. Make sure your developer tab is there. If it's not, just simply right-click somewhere up in the ribbon here and click Customize the ribbon. And then you need to make sure that the developer thing is checked. So now see, if I turn it off, it won't be there, but just make sure the developer is checked and we click OK. But I've been to places where that's not checked. If it's not checked, you can't do this. So now we're going to go to record, actually, let's see here. Let's record macro. Let's click record macro and we're going to name it. The first is going to be print sales. Now you can't put a space in there. You can put an underscore, or you can do the camel casing like I've got here. You can also put a shortcut key. For example, we could put in there Shift. You can do Control Shift S, and let's see here. Make it Control Shift. Yeah, it's okay. Now, since the control is already there, you just hit the Shift key and you can put P, click in the box and Shift P. And so in other words, Control Shift P will do this. So now once you click OK, you will notice here in the upper left, don't click it, but just look at it, you'll see Stop Recording. It means you're on the air here. Everything you're doing now is being recorded. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to select just this area right here, and you're going to go up to the page layout, and you're going to say print area, and we're going to say set the print area. So now it is set. Now we come back to developer and we click stop recording. You have just created your own macro. Let's do another one. Let's suppose we want to apply the bold and italic here, and underline, and maybe a yellow. So let's click on the word inside here, and then let's record another macro. We're going to click record macro. This one's going to be apply, format, bold. Remember, don't put spaces in there. And we're going to do, there's the control. We don't need to press control, so just do shift. We're going to put an F there as in format. So we did the other one, which was like, the P was like print, Anyway, you can put a description down there if you want, but now we're going to click OK. We're going to do it. So now, while it's recording, we're going to go back to home. We're going to click in, we're going to do bold, italic, underline. So bold is already selected. You're going to click U, and then we're going to come up here and change this to a yellow, and then this to a red. Okay. So now we come back to developer, and we stop recording. Now let's do one more macro. This time we're going to click record macro. We're going to name this print hire date. Hire date. And then we do, in here, we're going to do a shift and an H. So you don't want to do just a control H or a control P or a control F, because those are already taken. I wanted to mention that to you. Those are, you don't want to mess, you don't want to, those, because those are going to overwrite what you've got in your workbook now. So we click OK. So now we're just going to select the hire date this time, not the sales. And then I hope I didn't get those mixed up. Anyway, we're going to do that. We're going to go to page layout, and then we're going to go to print area and say set the print area again. Then we come back here to developer and we stop recording. Now, what we can always do is we can click up in here and we can click view the code. Actually, there's another way to do that. It's actually a better way. But you can go to the macros. Just click on macros. It'll give you a list of them. It's really better to, like for this one here, we can look at it, and then we can click in here where it says options. Yeah, we can change that. That's kind of a way to look and see what you did there. But you can also click edit. That's what I was trying to tell you about. If you got the wrong error, you can go in there and change it there. So now we have our macros here. We're going to get into that later. But so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click right here, for example. I'm going to do a control, shift, and F, and it should apply that format there without having to click on it and go find the home ribbon and all that. But now I'm going to do the others. Let me go back up to macros. Let's remind us we have macro here, which applies as the hire date. We'll click on that, and if we click the options, it's going to say, well, that's the H. And if we click on print sales, we do the options. That's going to be the P. So let's do this once. We can do the Control Shift P. You see, yeah, I screwed that up. I was supposed to do all of them there. I was supposed to print the sales. So let's fix that. So what I should be able to do here is go back into the macros, and let's change that. So we go to print sales and edit. I'm going to change that range. Let's make a maximize there. But that should go over, instead of to C19, that should be going over to F19. So let's just change that C19 to F19 in that area there, and then close it. You don't have to do a save because it'll automatically save. So now let's try that. Let's do a Control Shift and P. You see now it's setting the print area to all of that. So yeah, I want to say I made that mistake on purpose, but I'm lying. It really wasn't. Anyway, so now we have done macros. So that should give you an idea how macros work. Last thing I want to show you then for this class, two things. One is how to put buttons up there, and then I'm going to show you a pie chart. So let's do those two things and we'll be finished here. So now let's do a button there. Let's go back to developer. It should still be open here. We're going to click design mode, and when you click the design mode, you'll notice here that it's kind of recessed, and then you click insert, You have what they call controls. Now you're going to click this little button up top here. If you click it, and then you're going to come down, you're going to draw a box here, and that's going to have this little thing pop up saying, which of those macros do you want to apply? Well, we're going to do that for the hire date. We want that to be run when we click it. So you click hire date and you click OK. Now before you do that, you can click edit if you want it one more time and check the coding, but otherwise you've got yourself this button. Now you can click and drag in here. Actually, if you right click on it, click edit the text, it'll let you go in there then and change those words. You don't want it to say button 2 there. You want it to say, I forget which one we did. Print sales or print hire date. I think is when we did print hire dates. Okay, that'll set the range for you. Let's do another one here. Then you click outside. Now when you click on it, you notice you're going to get that thing back there like it thinks you're editing. If you want to run it, you got to turn off the design mode. Okay, so turn that. You got to turn that off. There you go. Now you see. Come on. Well, anyway, you get. I'll take care of that. Anyway, so now you're going to go do another one here. Let's make another box here. We're going to go back and create this one here now. We're going to click and drag this, and we're going to make this go to the print sales. So we can do the edit if we want to, but now we're going to click OK, and same thing. We can go across here and right click on that and do edit the text here, and then we're going to go across and make just hit the delete key or whatever. We're going to call that print sales, and so on. Just keep so that then you can resize that and whatever, resize it here, and then you can click and move it. That's what I'm saying. Now at some point when you click it, it'll do it. So anyway, you can click on them and move them, whatever you want to do. But that's the idea here. Resize and all of that, whatever we ask you to do. And then clicking outside will make it so if you point to it, you'll get an index finger. Last but not least, I want to show you how to do a pie chart. We've done charts before, but this is going to be a pie chart, and you got to really watch here. As before, if you select non-adjacent cells, you click and drag down from you don't forget to put the label in there. And also, you're going to do control, and you're going to year-to-date sales down to row 19. They must be equal in length, and I recommend strongly that you make sure the labels are in there and do not get totals in there. But here we're going to do an insert of a pie chart that is also 3D. Now if you click on it, you'll notice here that it will look very similar to this. The nice thing is I can click on one of these slices, I can click on it a second time, and I can pull it out and make it explode. I can also reach up here and I can rotate and things such as that. And please, if the test or the homework tells you to move the chart to its own sheet, just click Move Chart and then name the sheet. I'm going to call this Chart 1. We move it to its own sheet if you want. Whatever the test or homework tells you to do, just be sure to do it. The thing is, I'm saying you can click up here, you can change all these formats, and you can change even the styles of them. There's lots of different styles you can do. But one of the nice things you can do also is if you right-click in this area here, you'll notice it says 3D rotation. So if I click the 3D rotation, you'll notice here I can take the rotation, here like it's 30 degrees now. If I can take it to 40, you can see down on it better over here. And watch my mouse over here. I can click down and I can flatten it. Or the rotation here can make it spin a little bit like a top. So I can take the 0%, you see I can move it around like so, and I can say I want it to be going that way. So that's what the X rotation over here on the right is. Finally, what I can do is I can click on one of these things, and I can indicate that I would like it to have different kinds of labels. For example, I can right-click in here, and actually that's not what I meant to do was to right-click right on the chart. You have to right-click right on it here. If you right-click, you'll notice it says Add Data Labels. So if I say Add Data Labels, you'll see that they will go inside like that. Now I can put them there if I want, or you'll notice that some of them will go outside if there's not enough room. So that is how you would do something like that. So I believe now we've done everything here. Later on we may give you a Visual Basic and a Java assignment to do. But at this point, this is all you need to do for the Excel. So now you have all the videos you need for Access and Excel. And again, there may be some more forthcoming. Thank you.